Welcome to the Mormon to Medium podcast, where we'll talk about spirituality, the paranormal, religion, and my journey going from Mormon to medium. I'm Nannette Ride. Thanks for listening. Now let's go have some fun.
Don't be afraid. Close your eyes.
Welcome to another episode of the Mormon to Medium podcast. We are your hosts, Brad and Nan.
Hello.
Hello, hello. We hope you had a great week. We have got kind of an interesting topic today.
Well, I don't know it's so much interesting as it is applicable, right? So we wanted to talk about grief today. It's one of those things that sometimes becomes a little bit of a taboo topic, and we just want to open it up a little bit.
Well, in the past, we've also talked about grief more in depth, but this is going to be towards those that are grieving a loss. And it could be a loss of any type. It could be a death. It could be a loss of a marriage, a loss of a job, just a loss in general, because grief is grief. Sometimes it's deeper because, a death would be pretty deep, right?
Well, and that's just the thing, though, is when people think about grief, they only focus on, oh my gosh, I lost a loved one to death. My loved one's passed on, and that's where my grief is coming from. They don't realize that grief can literally be caused by any of those types of losses. And I think that's important to focus on, that, hey, it's okay to grieve this situation.
Exactly. You want to know something interesting? It just popped into my head. When I am doing energy balancing and muscle balancing, grief is actually held in the lungs. And and when I do a muscle test, the emotion, if the muscles don't hold, directly impacts the self-confidence and self-image. So self-image and self-worth and self-confidence is all related.
Interesting.
So I think when you have a loss, your self-confidence takes a hit too. It makes you reassess yourself and kind of where you sit in your life.
That makes total sense. If you think about, oh my gosh, I've lost my job, a lot of times you wrap your self-worth up in that job, that, ability to provide, and you lose that, your self-worth definitely takes a hit.
Exactly. Well, and additionally, if you even lose a loved one, what is your life without that loved one? How do I navigate my life? And your self-confidence takes a hit because you have to stand in your own light and you have to stand in your own power. And sometimes the people that we lose are our power. They are our strength, so it makes you reassess things. And so, loss and grief are universal. Everyone will experience it.
Right.
But I find it so interesting that it's related to the lungs, and the lungs are related to self-image, self-worth, and confidence.
So as you do that type of work, how do you release that? What do you do to get rid of it?
There's a balance for that.
There's a balance for that. Of course there is. Well, because, there's a lot of things out there. There's healthy ways to deal with grief and loss and stress and et cetera. And there are unhealthy ways, right? We're always going to know, you hear about the healthy ways. Let's take care of yourself, exercise, make sure you're taking some time for mental health and relaxing and, all of those types of things. And we all have heard also the flip side of that is, unhealthy is substance abuse, whether that's alcohol or drugs or, sex, whatever it might be.
Right.
You can't drown it in those substances or those types of actions.
Well, people that do those things, they're in so much pain because of the grief that they just want it to stop for a minute. And so they just want to numb it. And then you get in the cycle of addiction. So, and it's very hard to get out of that. It's kind of a Band-Aid, but the thing is when you finally do stop, the issue's still there and you still have to feel it. This is our school and we're supposed to feel everything and release it. So facing it head on and feeling it and feeling safe to feel it and all the feelings that go with grief. You've got like the numbness and the anger and, the denying that it happened and, why did it happen?
Well, like the Kubler-Ross model. So the denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Yes. And they can hit anytime there's no wrong or right way to grieve. They can hit any time and even years out. You know, you can be 10 years out and be utterly pissed that it happened because you're still processing.
Does that happen to you?
Oh, totally. Absolutely. Does it happen to you? I mean, you've had loss in your life.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you process things, you know, even years later and be like, yeah, I'm feeling fucking frustrated today, or I can't even believe that happened.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I used you as an example because you've had that major grief, right? With the loss of a husband to such a violent action. And I've seen it. You know, I've seen it firsthand that, hey, Nan's doing really good this year. And then the next year, it's a complete shit show.
Right. And like I said, there is no wrong or right way. It just is grief, and you have to be allowed to process it. You have to realize it, though. I think as I go along and things get better, I realize what I'm doing instead of just experiencing it and being in, you know, that deep hole of darkness. I realize what's happening and kind of catch it and be like, okay, I'm grieving and I'm feeling anger right now, and I'm just going to sit with that for right now and process it for right now. And I allow myself the grace to do that. But it's so important to allow that. It's part of the healing process, right?
Yeah, I think so. And so when you're like, hey, I'm feeling this way, what helps you?
For me, staying busy and also thinking, because it's a death for me, thinking what Corey would want me to do to be happy, because he wouldn't want me to sit around in a dark room and be depressed. And believe me, I've done that before. I don't allow myself to do that for very long, but sometimes you're just exhausted because you've cried your eyes out and you can't do anything else, right? But to be busy, and usually you'll be like, you know what would Corey want to do? Do you want to go get sushi? Should we, because that was his favorite, or should we go up in the mountains and do something that he would have loved to do? How can we honor him? And I love that you step in and you do that. You're like, how can we honor him? What can we do? And I always come out of it faster because I feel like I'm honoring him by being happy and by remembering him. And you allow me the grace to be able to remember him, and you remember him with me. And I think that that's a huge deal. You've helped me immensely be able to heal.
Well, and I think that's part of handling grief is having a good, healthy support system, right?
Exactly.
It's important to have those people you can rely on.
Well, you definitely don't want to be left alone, because when you get in that depression cycle, being alone is the last thing you need.
Well, and it's kind of a weird double-edged sword, right? Because when you are depressed, you just want to be alone.
But you don't really.
But you do, because you're like, I just want to lay here and sleep.
Exactly. But then you don't really, because you feel like nobody gives a shit about me. I'm really dark here and I'm struggling and I'm depressed and nobody cares. And you get into that loop, and it's a silent loop most of the time. You know, it's inside your head.
Mm-hmm.
You would never verbalize it and be like, I just want someone to care. Pick me.
Why do you think nobody verbalizes it?
I think a lot of people don't want to be needy.
But wouldn't that eliminate the issue?
It would.
Like if just that little bit of communication, like, hey, I really, really need some help. I really, really just need to be held.
But how hard is it for a lot of people to be vulnerable? Because vulnerability is seen as a weakness a lot of times, when in actuality, it's a strength. And I love Brene Brown's book on vulnerability. Read it. If you haven't read it, huge. It's awesome. She talks about it being a strength, being able to communicate and enunciate how you're feeling and what's going on and how other people can help you is so key in being able to pull yourself out of that cycle. I call it circling the drain.
So I guess the big thing is, how do you empower somebody to feel like they can talk about that? Because, you know, obviously looking from the outside in, people will go, oh my gosh, you know, I can tell there's something wrong, but I don't know what to do. So how do you, as one of those outsiders looking in, help empower somebody to vocalize, to reach out?
I don't know that you can empower somebody unless they're willing to heal and take those steps to heal, because a lot of people just want to be where they're at. But what you can do is you can show them love and hold space for them and just sit with them.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question that you're going to be like, what the hell? Why'd you ask that? So you hear that phrase all the time.
What phrase?
Hold space for them. That is something that you hear from counselors. You hear it from people in the energy work business, from psychic mediums, from, Nannette. What does it mean to, quote, hold space for someone?
It means when someone is in a deep, dark hole, I call it sitting in your shit. And sometimes you have to just sit in it and process it. But when you hold space for someone, you crawl down in the hole with them and sit with them. And you don't bring your own story with you. You just listen. You just validate them. And you don't bring your own stuff. You don't say, I understand, or I've been there, or anything. It's not about you. It's about them. And so you're holding space for them to feel the way they're feeling, and let it be a safe space to feel how they feel, and let them know that they're loved. And you just hold their hand. You just surround them in love, the end. And that's holding space and not making it about you.
Got it. And you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense, because that is really easy to go, okay, how's this person feeling? How do I relate it to a way that I've felt in the past? And how did I take care of that in the past? Okay, I'm going to share this now.
Right. But a lot of times when you're holding space, as the person's processing, they might be like, have you felt like this before? And they'll start to ask questions, and then you can share. But don't bring your story with you.
No, you're crazy. What's wrong with you?
No, actually, I have zero idea how you're feeling. You're just shit crazy.
I'm sorry. I'm just here because I heard it on a podcast. This is what I'm supposed to do. Shit.
You know what, though? Honestly and truly, it's what we should do for everyone, whatever the loss is, we should sit with people and let them feel safe and accepted. I think a lot of people, when they experience loss, they feel as if they're an outsider. You don't understand how I feel. They feel very alone, very isolated,
Mm-hmm.
and like something's wrong with them.
I had a pretty tragic loss once, and I said a prayer, and the next place I looked for my keys, I found them.
You're Mormon when?
We were running late to go to the temple, and we were frantic because we couldn't find the car keys anywhere. And I just had this feeling that if I prayed about it, everything would be okay. And so I said a prayer, and I asked for help finding our car keys. The next place I looked, I found them. God knew we had to go to the temple that day.
Speaking of, do you remember me telling you about losing my car keys after Corey died? Like right after his funeral.
Oh, yeah. And you found them like in some random ass place, right?
In a different room that had been shut off from everybody. It's so weird. Like he literally, and it was by a picture of him. Like, because I lost my voice, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point in time, I didn't know that I was gifted and that I was an empath and that I feel other people's stuff. And I don't want people to hurt. So even at the viewing, I was like comforting other people rather than the other way around. But I gave my energy and gave it and gave it and gave it. And I lost my voice.
Well, and you never spoke your voice either.
No, but I mean, like literally, I didn't even have a squeak. Like nothing would come out, nothing. And it was like that for probably a good 10 days, like nothing.
Wow.
But like.
That is so crazy to even imagine. The only time I've seen you where you don't talk is when you're pissed.
Dude.
So that was probably terrifying for your family. They're like, oh God, Mom.
It's not for lack of
Mom's
trying.
Mom's not talking. Oh shit.
No, it's not for lack of trying. I tried to talk. So I had to carry around a pad of paper and a pencil and bawl my kids out on a pad of paper. But when you're getting ready to go to the temple, Satan steps in and makes it impossible for you to go.
Oh my God.
That's why you lose your keys.
I know. The devil takes your keys. The devil makes you run late in traffic. The devil makes it so that you don't go to that most holy of holy. And I hate even talking like this. It sounds so disrespectful, but oh my gosh, I've got trauma to unpack with that.
Hey, Brad, there's a balance for that.
Is there a balance for that? If only I knew somebody who was great at giving balances, then I could utilize that.
What exactly, we say that all the time, but what exactly does that mean? There's a balance for that. What does that mean?
Well,
Why do you need a balance?
I was hoping that somebody who was certified in touch for health might be able to explain that. Do I need to call up like Dr. Fee or something and see if they can explain it? Or would you happen to have some firsthand knowledge there?
This is a husband test, though. I want to see what you say.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Nan. Well,
it's a test, honey.
So,
drink more coffee and
so
see.
let me ask you this, Nan. If you had several tributaries of water running through your body and some crazy beaver came and packed up a bunch of sticks and mud and blocked off and dammed off one of those tributaries to make a big
What's
beaver
a tributary?
pond, a smaller river.
Oh.
So, and that beaver blocked off that area to make a big beaver dam where it could fish. What happens to everything below the beaver dam?
It has less energy. It's sometimes a trickle, sometimes none.
Yeah, it dries up. It's going to dry up. So the key with a balance is to help tear down those beaver dams. Not because we don't like beavers, but because we don't want our water being blocked off and drying everything else up.
It's true. Exactly. And the water being our energy, our life force energy rivers.
Yep.
Right. So our chakras, our meridians, or our chi. Yeah. 99% of us are energy. So we probably need to keep that part of ourselves balanced. I have had such cool clients come in and most of the muscles don't balance. Like none of them are working. That's how stressed they are.
Wow.
It's so cool to balance them. And all of a sudden, especially if it's a 1-point balance. And a 1-point balance is we do one thing and it turns all the energy on. Like it's the coolest thing because then you go back and you test the muscles and they hold strong. And the client's like, what the crap? Because just a second ago, I wasn't strong.
That sounds like the best value for the money is just do that all the time, right?
Exactly. And that's Touch for Health. Touch for Health. It's so cool. Anyone can learn how to do it.
Can you do that all the time? Like that same one balance will work for everything?
You know what? It would, but it takes a lot of time. But yes, you always have to ask the body. When I very first started doing this work, I would be like, okay, this person has a headache and we're going to need to do this and this and this, or this person has low back pain. So we're going to have to work on their hip flexors and we're going to have to work on their psoas and like all the muscles in the hip area. Well, get this, like the meridians that run through the hips also run through the upper body as well. So you could have a blockage in the upper body that's causing the lower body not to get energy. So you actually have to ask the body and not have a story about it. So it could be any of thousands of balances.
So what you're saying is you have to go into it objectively as a practitioner and just be like, let's see what your body says.
Exactly. And have zero story. Yeah. One of my favorite thing is when people come in super, super depressed. Like I'm talking, they walk up and they're vibing low.
That's your favorite thing when people are super depressed?
Yes. Because when they
get
a balance, when they get a balance, as soon as they're balanced, you can see, and I know this is a Mormon thing, the word, but their countenance, everything about their energy changes. Their light just starts to glow in their face. And all of a sudden they look at me like, what just happened? Because I'm not depressed anymore. I don't feel like I did. But I'm like, but do you understand why you felt depressed? Do you understand what your body was saying to you? Look at all the muscles and the meridians and the energy blocks that you had. Do you understand now what happened and what was happening and why you don't feel that anymore? And it's just like this sacred place to stand, in healing, because people don't have to feel that way. They don't have to feel stressed.
Yeah.
There's a balance for that. Actually, there's lots of balances for that. For stress, if you have tons and tons of stress, that's a beaver dam. And you can turn it from a 10 down to a 1 or a 0 and be like, okay, I got this. Like I can do this. And that's the whole point. Like if you can work with your energy centers and work with the muscles and the body, you can get through anything if you can understand it and you can heal it. If you can feel it, you can heal it.
And there are simple balances people can do on themselves, right?
Yes.
You've taught me a few of them that are pretty easy to do quick.
Well, and on several people when we're out and about, I just go and put my hands on their kidneys, knowing that they're dehydrated. That's a really good way to hydrate the kidneys. Put your hands on the kidneys and hold them there. The kidneys will hydrate and all of a sudden muscle cramps will go away.
Well, and there's more to it than just that. You've got to move the energy through it, right?
Well, yeah, you've got to picture your energy coming from the center of you and shooting out through your hands. But with practice, it gets really, really good. And I also love being able to balance people that don't even know what energy is, and then having them get to feel their energy pulsating through their body. It kind of feels like a heartbeat, but not. And when you don't, let's say you don't have energy running on the left side of your body, but you do on the right side of your body, you can hold the end of a meridian on each side. So bilaterally, you can hold them and you can feel the beat on one side and nothing on the other. And you just sit there and hold it until you feel the beat simultaneously on both sides. And the client can feel it. And it's the coolest thing ever because they're like, I can feel it starting to tingle up in my chest, or I can feel it down my leg, or I can, oh my gosh, I feel the pulsation. That is so cool. And I'm like, for the longest time, I used to think that was always a heartbeat. But when I went to the instructor classes, they're like, that is not the heartbeat. That's not where the heart's at. Like, that is energy. That is the feeling of energy. So very, very, very cool stuff.
That is. And you just talked about, working with people who don't have any idea what that is. We were at a wedding for a family member recently, and you got the chance to show somebody just exactly what this looked like, right?
I did. This family member, he apparently had low back issues, but he went to stand up and it stoved up and he was half bent over and could not move and could not breathe, like extreme pain. And he was just like, everybody thought he was having like a stroke or something.
Yeah.
And Brad comes over to me.
Because he's had some, some health issues in the past that made everyone go, oh my gosh, is this happening again?
Right. Interestingly enough, part of the muscles in that low back, one of them is the psoas muscle. And the emotion that is in the psoas muscle is the inability to move forward. And when that back stoves up, you literally can't move forward.
Yeah.
You're stuck. But within maybe 3 minutes, I was able to sedate those meridians and get him moving and standing up. And he told me
it was amazing.
Yeah.
Because he was so excited. He's like, oh my gosh, that you got me moving quicker. I've gone to my chiropractor for years and he can never get me moving that quick.
He's like, I don't know what you did, but my pain is gone. And I was just like, and that's the thing. I have 9 different pain balances that can be used, 9 different ones.
Well, and that's
like,
just the ones you know off the top of your head.
That I know off the top of my head. Yeah. Take a pick. They're very, very, very powerful. You know what? It can be used for grief. It can be used for muscle issues. It can be used for any type of pain. But if you're feeling anything that you don't want to feel, it's an invitation to heal.
Well, it's kind of like this tissue box you've got sitting in your office. It's got a saying on it that says, if you can feel it, you can heal it.
Literally. So if you feel it in your heart or in your body or in your muscles or anywhere, there's a balance for that.
Awesome. I love it. So, hey, I did want to remind you that earlier we drew a card.
You did. Yeah. I love when you draw the cards.
So we drew a card for the audience to give everybody a little bit of, what are we giving them?
We're giving them good juju for the week.
Yeah. Give everyone a little good juju for the week. So what we're looking at, when I drew the card I pulled this cool deck, and we'll throw a picture of what it looks like onto the socials, but it says on the bottom of it, nourish the soul. And the image is like this Black Panther drinking from a stream, but the Black Panther is ethereal. It's like made of stars and luminescence. It's really pretty, but essentially what this card comes down to is drink in life, enjoy life. Life is supposed to be all of those things, right? All of the bright colors. It's supposed to be all of the smells, all the taste. It's supposed to be something that you explore every day. Nourish the soul through those experiences, whether they are within you or around you. Your journey, it's meant to be one of those great experiences. Experience it. And whether that means you go and you sit somewhere quietly and you just listen and you watch the birds, or you do one of those things that makes you feel like an old person, right? Like that's our excitement in the morning. It's like, oh my God, look, there's 2 hummingbirds at the same time. But
hey, they're cool.
exactly. Do those things, experience life all around you. It's meant to be that rainbow of color and motion and sound. It's not that bland, tasteless thing that grief might try to trick you into believing. Life is vibrant.
In addition to that, my team's popping in, and I need to also say, when we experience any kind of loss, when we're going through grief, when we start to heal that, we actually get in touch with our spiritual side, and we shift and we grow. And so nothing will help you grow more deeply than loss. So keep that in mind. If you're going through loss, there's always an upside. And so as deep as you go in the darkness, you're going to go that high in the light.
Absolutely.
So remember, the bottom isn't the end.
Well, and we're all connected, and you can always reach out to people. And if anybody out there needs help, we are always here.
Absolutely. Don't ever feel alone. We hope you have an awesome week. Thanks for joining us. If you want to go and leave a review, please do. Help us grow. Share our podcast. Come and follow us on our Instagram, on our Facebook pages. And if you'd like to book a balance or a reading, or if you'd like a clearing and start working on your spirituality, you can find all of those appointments on zenergysage.com and find out the things that we offer. Keep watching for the upcoming classes that are coming. You're going to want to join those workshops. They're mini workshops, so they're just a couple hours, and you can start balancing your animals, your kids, yourself. And in March, you can start learning Touch for Help and start balancing your friends. We just love you, and we're so, so grateful.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you
on the other side of the veil.